Part 14. 80s, after marrying a disabled man, I am really fragrant. Author, Nostalgic Head. Chapter 131. Chapter 131 Patients from the Imperial Capital. Mom, my father-in-law and Lunan don't know anything. Yang Yufeng doesn't dare to face me like this in front of them. She always bullies me behind their backs. Ning 11 grabbed Ning Xiaohe's hand, for fear that she would rush up and fight with her. Lu Zhengai fought hard. 11 we of you, my poor daughter, we of you. Ning Xiaohe hugged Ning 11 into her arms and cried so hard that her heart was broken. Her daughter, her baby, had suffered so much. And she was the one who caused all this. If she had not left her daughter in Shanghe village, none of this would have happened. Ning 11 wiped away her tears, so just leave her alone, okay? I will never call her mom in this life. I don't have to retaliate against her for Lunan's sake, but as long as she takes the initiative to provoke me, I will never let her go. Yang Yufeng, I will fight with you. Ning Xiaohe turned around and rushed over angrily, grabbed Yang Yufeng's hair, tore it apart, and scratched Yang Yufeng's face. Yang Yufeng was pinned to the ground and couldn't help her. She screamed in agony, but no one came forward to help her. Xiao 11, you have suffered so many grievances at home, why don't you tell me, why don't you tell me? Lu Zhengai's eyes were red and his body was shaking uncontrollably. He always thought that Yang Yufeng would at best make Ning 11 do more work and beat and scold her. A few words, who knew that Yang Yufeng had done so many excessive things, and they didn't know anything about it. If I told her that you would teach her a few words at that time, she would restrain herself, and when you go back to school, she would return it even harder to me. You can. Lu Zhengai opened his mouth. He wanted to say that she could tell Lunan. With Lunan protecting her, Yang Yufeng didn't dare. But at that time, the relationship between Lunan and Ning 11 was so bad, how could Ning 11 do it? I believe Lunan will help her. Soon someone came from the police station, and it was Captain Lu who handled the canteen shop incident last time. The fact that Yang Yufeng came to the house to cause trouble was just a minor incident, and it did not cause much harm to Ning 11's family. Moreover, Yang Yufeng seemed to be more miserable in comparison. Captain Lu only educated and warned Yang Yufeng, and then let him go. Ning 11 didn't stop her. She reported the case today just to scare Yang Yufeng, and she didn't really want to send anyone in because of this matter. Yang Yufeng left, and several patients came to the house. Ning 11 went to the treatment room to treat patients. The others also dispersed. Liu Bei stood in the yard for a long time, seemingly struggling with something. After more than half an hour, he walked into the main room, picked up the phone and dialed the landline of Lunan's office about his mother's abuse of his sister-in-law. He wants to tell his elder brother. Liu Bei did a big thing so quietly, and even he didn't know that because of his decision, he changed Lunan's previous thoughts and turned Lunan into an unfilial son. Ning 11 in the treatment room did not know these things. At the moment, the patient was crying to her about how much money he had spent to give birth to a child and how much suffering he had endured. Ning 11 wrote a prescription for the other party, originally thinking that the other party would leave, but she didn't know that the two of them were still continuing, crying and talking endlessly. As a doctor, there were no other patients at the moment, and it was hard for her to chase people away, so I could sit there and listen with an expressionless face. Finally, and he walked into the treatment room and rescued Ning 11. Xiao 11, are you done? What happened to and he? Ning 11 took the opportunity to stand up. The two people knew that Ning 11 was in trouble, so they quickly wiped away their tears, paid the money, thanked her profusely, and left. After the two of them walked away, and he walked over and sat down opposite Ning 11, your Uncle Chen wants you to go to the city with him. Is something the matter? I'm going to see a patient. Your Uncle Chen will tell you about the specific situation on the way. Now, Ning 11 raised her eyebrows. She had to study tomorrow. She was going to the city right now. She didn't know if she could make it back in the evening. Let's set off after lunch. The main purpose of Uncle Chen taking you there this time is to introduce some friends to you. Hearing what Aunt he said, Ning 11 understood immediately. Uncle Chen's main purpose was not to take her for medical treatment, but to introduce some people. Knowing that Uncle Chen had good intentions, Ning 11 couldn't refuse, so she nodded in agreement. After lunch, she said hello to her family, and Ning 11 went out. Uncle Chen was already waiting for her in the car. On the way, Dr. Chen also explained the situation to Ning 11. Dr. Chen did not introduce the patient in detail. He only said that the patient came from the imperial capital. His main purpose of bringing Ning 11 there was to show her the world and show her face first. By the time they arrived in the city, it was almost 3 o'clock, and the car stopped in front of a building. After getting out of the car, Ning 11 raised her head and looked at the building. The building was 3 stories high. There were several big characters hanging in front of the tall building, Jinjiang Restaurant. This restaurant is opened by Chow Tai Fook. Dr. Chen explained at the side and led Ning 11 into the restaurant. Ning 11 looked at the restaurant. This restaurant was a round building, a bit like a Tongzi Tower. Of course, this hotel looked much more impressive than a Tongzi Tower. Dr. Chen negotiated with the front desk, and soon a waiter went to the 3rd floor and walked into a particularly large private room. There were about 10 people sitting in the private room, and when they heard the sound, they looked towards the door almost at the same time. Some people saw Dr. Chen and greeted him with a smile. Lao Chen is here. Mr. Chen. Uncle Chen. Good afternoon, everyone. Dr. Chen greeted everyone with a smile and exchanged greetings with everyone. Dr. Chen looked at Ning 11 behind him. This is my niece Ning 11, bring her out to see her. Xiao 11 is from Linzhen. Dr. Zhang, Dr. Wu from the prefecture and county. Dr. Chen introduced some doctors he was familiar with and their children to Ning 11. Ning 11 greeted the other party politely. For Dr. Chen's sake, everyone was also quite polite to Ning 11. A door inside was pushed open, and a gray-haired old man came out of the house. When he saw Dr. Chen, he waved to him. Old Chen, you're here, just go in and take a look. I've just arrived, please go ahead. Dr. Chen quickly gave way. Someone smiled and said, we have all seen it, you go first. Knowing that everyone had gone in to take a look, Dr. Chen didn't say anything. He called Ning 11 and walked over with him and introduced, Xiao 11, this is Dr. Zhang. He is the one with the best medical skills and the most qualifications among us. Brother Zhang, this is my niece Ning 11. Hello, Uncle Zhang. Judging from the other person's age, he could be her grandfather, but Dr. Chen always called him brother, so she had no choice but to call him uncle. Yes, Dr. Zhang nodded lightly and turned around to lead the two of them into the room. Inside is a large suite with 2 large beds. An old man in his 50s is sitting on the bed on the right side of the door, and a young man in his 20s is lying on the large bed on the left. His face was like a piece of white paper, and his lips were dark purple. This looks like you have been poisoned. Dr. Zhang introduced him loudly, Mr. Ling, this is Dr. Chen. Hello, Dr. Chen. Mr. Ling nodded to Dr. Chen. I would like to ask Dr. Chen to help my grandson take a look. Okay. Dr. Chen responded and walked forward to check the man on the bed. The more he checked, the more serious Dr. Chen's face became. Young Master Ling is poisoned. It's not just one kind of poison. These poisons are poisonous. It has been in Master Ling's body for at least 10 years. End of this chapter. 80s, after marrying a disabled man, I am really fragrant. Author, Nostalgic Head. Chapter 132. Chapter 132, Being Attacked. Let's go out and chat. Teacher Zhang made an inviting gesture. Dr. Chen stood up and was about to leave. He turned around to see Ning 11, then turned to look at the man lying on the bed. Xiao 11, come and take Master Ling's pulse. Ning 11 did not act immediately. Seeing that Elder Ling did not stop him, he slowly walked over and checked the person's pulse. After checking her pulse, she didn't say anything. Dr. Zhang didn't take her seriously. He opened the door and walked out of the room without asking any more questions. Dr. Zhang called everyone together and briefly introduced the situation of the person inside. Mr. Ling in the room came from the imperial capital. His grandson Ling Yun's poison was brought from his mother's womb. There are more than a dozen kinds of poison in total. The poison is not fatal when taken apart, but when added together it is enough to kill a person. Ling Yun's illness has been treated by the Wang family, a well-known medical family in the imperial capital. Although he cannot completely detoxify, he can control the spread of the poison and let Ling Yun live like a normal person. 3 months ago, Ling Yun was pranked by a group of friends who added some ingredients to his drink. Drinking this spiked wine activated all the poisons in Ling Yun's body, almost causing Ling Yun to die on the spot. It took several elders of the Wang family a day and a night to rescue Ling Yun. Unfortunately, Ling Yun's poison had already penetrated deep into his internal organs. Can only live for half a year at most. After Mr. Zhang introduced Ling Yun's situation, he added, Mr. Ling has already said that whoever can cure Master Ling will receive a medical fee of 300,000 yuan and a house in his name. This house is in the ancient streets of the imperial capital. Someone asked excitedly, Shanggu Street is the big mansion where the nobles lived in the past. Yes, it is said that the house is worth more than 1 million. Mr. Zhang glanced at everyone's faces. Not everyone can afford this remuneration. We can discuss it and see if we can come up with something effective. If you can't decide on a treatment plan by yourself, you can discuss it with a few more people, and then we can share the reward equally. After Mr. Zhang finished speaking, everyone began to discuss with the people around them. Several people dragged stools to Mr. Chen to discuss with him. Ning 11 sat quietly next to Mr. Chen and did not participate in the deliberations of any group. The group of people talked about their ideas one by one, and there was a fierce quarrel while they were talking. The quarrel became quiet again, and they continued to discuss calmly. This state lasted for more than an hour. Some people chose to give up and said, Mr. Zhang, we can't cure this poison, so I'll go back first. We're leaving first too. 5 or 6 people stood up immediately. Mr. Zhang waved his hand and said comfortingly, don't leave in a hurry if you can't solve the problem. Mr. Ling has already asked people to prepare wine and food before leaving after dinner in the evening. Those who live far away can stay here tonight, and it will be counted as Ling's on the old account. Those people sat down again. It's not that everyone couldn't afford a meal and had to stay here to eat. Mr. Ling didn't dislike them for being useless and couldn't help but let everyone eat. They had to give Mr. Ling face no matter what. Eat your meal before leaving. Another half hour passed, and Mr. Chen and his group also chose to give up. Ling Yun's situation was indeed getting worse. They couldn't come up with a perfect treatment plan, and they didn't dare to try it easily. If they were not careful, aggravating Ling Yun's illness may cause anger in the upper body. After everyone finished the discussion, Mr. Zhang saw that no one dared to show up. He shook his head in disappointment and walked back to the room. After a while, Mr. Zhang came out and waved his hand and said, everyone, take a seat. The food and drinks will be served soon. Not long after, the private room door was opened, and the waiters placed plates of delicious food on the table one after another. After the food was served, a waiter asked respectfully, who are Dr. Chen and Dr. Ning who came from Yao Township? Dr. Chen looked at the waiter, what's the matter? The waiter stepped forward and asked respectfully, are you Dr. Chen? Yes, Dr. Chen nodded. The waiter replied, Mr. Zhou has arranged tea on the rooftop, and I would like to invite you and Dr. Ning to have a small gathering on the rooftop after dinner. Dr. Chen nodded, okay. Mr. Joe has arranged a place for you and Dr. Ning. Boss Joe is interested. Dr. Chen did not refuse. Although Joe Dafu is called Joe Poppy, he is actually a very friendly person. In the past, when Joe Dafu came to the city, as long as Joe Dafu knew about it, he would always help him. Make arrangements. You guys eat first, I'll wait for you outside and take you to the roof in a moment, the waiter said and quickly pushed out of the private room. Mr. Ling doesn't have much appetite, so he won't come out to greet everyone. We are all acquaintances, so don't be polite, so it's more casual. Mr. Zhang took the lead in picking up chopsticks to greet everyone to eat. Everyone picked up their chopsticks and started eating. Apart from the clinking of bowls and chopsticks and the sound of chewing, there was no other sound on the table. Since I couldn't help, I had a very uncomfortable meal. After the meal, everyone stood up and left. Even those who lived far away didn't have the nerve to stay. Brother Zhang, let's go first. Dr. Chen stood up with Ning 11. Dr. Zhang nodded, I'll sit at home tomorrow. Lao He and the others will come too. It's been a long time since we got together. Dr. Chen smiled and waved his hand, I won't go. My niece is still studying and has to go back to class in a hurry. Mr. Zhang didn't force it. Okay, let's get together next time. Mr. Zhang, goodbye. Ning 11 said politely to Mr. Zhang and followed Dr. Chen and a group of doctors out of the private room. The waiter was still waiting at the door. When he saw the two people coming out, he immediately greeted them, is this Dr. Ning? Ning 11 nodded to the waiter, I am Ning 11. Everyone's eyes fell on Ning 11, their faces filled with disdain and surprise. A little girl who came here to eat and drink with Dr. Chen was actually called a doctor, and she was still called Dr. Ning. It was really funny. But they are all human beings, so it is impossible to express what is in their hearts, and there is no need to offend Dr. Chen because of a little girl who loves playing music. Of course, these people didn't want to offend Dr. Chen, but there were still some who were not afraid of trouble. A girl in her 20s glanced at Ning 11 with disdain, it's just a girl's film, and it's for Dr. Ning. If I go out like this, won't everyone, please call me Dr. Wang. Dr. Chen looked at the girl with a smile, Shay Yao. You are now 18 this year, right? You're only 18, you're already 20. Dr. Wang beside Wang Shay Yao replied with a smile and glanced at Ning 11, Old Chen, why haven't I heard that you have a niece before? Dr. Chen smiled and replied, I am a friend's daughter-in-law. I brought her here mainly to see the world. Wang Shay Yao looked at Ning 11 with even more disdain, Uncle Chen, do you think too highly of her? I studied medicine at the age of 7 and started consulting at the age of 15. I don't dare to call myself a doctor. Those children from a family of traditional Chinese medicine have not been learning medical skills from their families since they were young, and none of them have started treating people at a young age. However, no one dares to call himself a doctor at a young age. Even the patients who come to see a doctor at home can only call they are among a certain young lady, a certain girl, a certain young master, and a certain young master. For someone like Ning 11, who doesn't seem to be from a big family, he still dares to call himself a doctor, and he's not afraid of making people laugh to death if he says it. End of this chapter. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. 80s, after marrying a disabled man, I am really fragrant. Author, Nostalgic Head. Chapter 133. Chapter 133 Fight Back. How can Shay Yao talk? Dr. Wang glared at Wang Shay Yao, and then said to Dr. Chen, don't mind, Old Chen. My granddaughter has never been able to keep her words to herself. She doesn't care whether others will be unhappy or not if she says anything. Ning 11 glanced at Dr. Wang expressionlessly. The old man was apologizing, but in fact he wanted to say that Ning 11 just couldn't bear the title of doctor. It was just that everyone was embarrassed to say it. His granddaughter of the Wang family was so outspoken that she wouldn't be upset. Avoid saying it. This feeling of being looked down upon by others made her very unhappy, and the consequence of her unhappiness was that others would not have a better time. Ms. Wang, right. Wang Sheyao glanced at Ning 11 arrogantly and said nothing, as if she was saying that someone like Ning 11 was not worthy of talking to her. Ms. Wang, is your trachea connected to your large intestine? What? Wang Sheyao glanced at Ning 11 as if he wanted to see an idiot, and then looked at Dr. Chen. Uncle Wang, are you sure you didn't bring an idiot? The trachea is connected to the large intestine. How stupid does one have to be to do this? What a stupid thing to say. The people around also looked at Ning 11 with disbelief. Is this called a doctor? How can that doctor say such stupid things? Dr. Chen opened his mouth to say something, but Ning 11 beat him to it. I don't know if you are stupid or not. I only know that if your trachea was not connected to your large intestine, your mouth wouldn't be so smelly when you talk. Wang Sheyao was confused. The surrounding officers were also confused. It took several seconds for Wang Sheyao to realize that Ning 11 was scolding her for having a bad mouth. Her face turned white and red, and she pointed at Ning 11 angrily and said, You, Ning 11, who do you think you are? How dare you scold me? Dr. Wang looked at Ning 11 with a sullen face, and it was clear from his eyes that he was also very angry. I'm not scolding you, I just want to remind you that there is no need to deliberately stink your mouth to hide body odor. After all, body odor is only in the armpits, and bad mouth emanates from the mouth. Smelling it will only make you more disgusting. I'll fight you. Wang Sheyao was almost furious. He rushed up and slapped Ning 11 on the face. Ning 11 raised her hand and grabbed Wang Sheyao's wrist. Wang Sheyao felt pain with just a little force and screamed, Ah! It hurts so much. Let go. Ning 11 pushed forward, and Wang Sheyao stumbled directly into Dr. Wang. Dr. Wang straightened up Wang Sheyao and walked towards Ning 11 with a gloomy face. At this time, Dr. Chen also took a step forward to block Ning 11. He said with a smile on his face and apologetically, Dr. Wang, I'm really sorry. My niece has always been outspoken and can't hide her words. Dr. Wang's face was even more embarrassed than before. This old man actually twisted the words he used to humiliate Ning 11 back to him and said, the surname is Chen. Dr. Chen ignored Dr. Wang, who was on the verge of going berserk. He turned around and scolded Ning 11 with a stern face, Xiao 11, how can you change your revealing temperament? All the officials looked at Dr. Chen with smiles. Dr. Chen was not lecturing his niece. This was clearly proof of Ning 11's words in disguise. Wang Sheyao's bad breath was fake and his body odor was fake. Really, Wang Sheyao deliberately used bad breath to cover up her body odor. What a shady person, he actually likes to curse people in a roundabout way. Ning 11 lowered her head aggrievedly, Uncle Chen, I didn't want to expose Miss Wang's faults. I just wanted to tell Miss Wang that I can cure her body odor, but judging from Miss Wang's appearance, she doesn't need my help to cure it of. Don't you have to pretend? She has lived 2 lives, but she can't pretend to be a 20-year-old woman? There are many doctors in the Wang family, so why do we need your good intentions to help people cure their body odor? Dr. Chen mocked the Wang family insinuatingly and glared at Ning 11 unhappily, look what you have done, you are so beautiful just because of your words, everyone knows that a beautiful girl has body odor, how can you let people come out to meet people in the future? Ning, I'm not done with you. Wang Sheyao's eyes were red, he glared at Ning 11 fiercely, pushed away the crowd and ran away. Dr. Wang glanced at Ning 11 gloomily, and then looked at Dr. Chen. This old man is more hateful than his niece. If Ning 11 said that, They could also cover up the fact that her granddaughter has body odor by saying that Ning 11 is talking nonsense. But old man Chen said something about his body odor on one side and another on the other side. It is impossible to get over this matter if he wants to. Before turning around to leave, Dr. Wang glanced at Ning 11 again. How did this girl detect that his granddaughter had body odor? The sachet he specially prepared for his granddaughter had clearly covered up her body odor. When Dr. Wang walked away, someone asked, Dr. Chen, Wang Sheiyao really has body odor, why didn't I smell it? It's so strange that you can't smell the body odor on Wang Sheiyao's body. Don't forget that the Wang family made their fortune by making incense. Dr. Chen looked calm, but he was also panicking inside. He couldn't smell Wang Sheiyao's body odor either. He concluded that Wang Sheiyao had body odor only after seeing Wang Sheiyao become angry and angry. He knew the affairs of the Wang family very well. Coupled with the strong fragrance of Wang Sheiyao, he naturally thought that old man Wang should use a certain fragrance to suppress the odor of Wang Sheiyao. Miss Ning, can you really cure body odor? A man who looked to be in his 20s asked curiously. In his memory, no one seemed to be able to truly cure body odor. My master happened to teach me a set of acupuncture techniques to remove body odor. Ning 11 glanced at the other person. This person was introduced by Dr. Chen before. He was Dr. Zhang's grandson named Zhang Beishi. Xiao 11, Mr. Zhou is still waiting for us, let's go. Dr. Chen didn't say much to the crowd and motioned to the waiter to lead them. After leaving everyone's sight, Dr. Chen said loudly, Xiao 11, you should not have quarreled with the Wang family just now. I'm sorry, Uncle Chen, for embarrassing you. Ning 11 really felt guilty. Although she was feeling better both physically and mentally now, she had indeed put Dr. Chen in a difficult situation. The Wang family is not a good family. Don't look at us talking and laughing when we are together. In fact, everyone dislikes the other, and everyone wants the other to have a hard time. I said you shouldn't quarrel with the Wang family, no. Because you have made things difficult for me, but because those people in the Wang family are determined to retaliate. If you have embarrassed them today, they will definitely try their best to get revenge in the future. Ning 11 raised her lips and smiled, if she dares to take revenge, I will continue to embarrass her. You, Dr. Chen shook his head helplessly. He knew it was too late to say anything now, so he didn't bother to say more. How did you know that Wang Sheiyao has body odor? My sense of smell is sharper than ordinary people, and I can always smell something that others can't smell. Not only is Ning 11's sense of smell sharper than ordinary people, her hearing, vision, feeling, and taste are all stronger than ordinary people. She uses the trocar acupuncture method enhances the perception ability, which makes it easier to see things from the patient that ordinary people cannot see. End of this chapter. 80s, after marrying a disabled man, I am really fragrant. Author, Nostalgic Head. Chapter 134. Chapter 134 Can detoxify him. The waiter took the two of them to the top of the building, which was arranged into a sky garden. Ning 11 followed him, and as soon as he stepped onto the roof, there was a feeling of love coming to his nose. The faint floral fragrance makes people feel relaxed and happy immediately. Chow Tai-Fuk was sitting and chatting with a man in his 40s. When he saw Dr. Chen and Ning 11 appearing, he stood up and said a few words to the other person and greeted them with a smile. Old Chen, Dr. Ning is here. Dr. Chen smiled helplessly, that's true of you. Xiao 11 and I just came to Zhang City for a tour, and you made arrangements. Let's go and sit inside. Chow Tai-Fuk smiled and led the two of them to sit down at a table. There was a tea set on the table. Chow Tai-Fuk rolled up his shirt sleeves and made tea in a decent manner. After making the tea, Chow Tai-Fuk poured a cup and placed it in front of Dr. Chen. Old Chen, have a try. I just got the good tea. Dr. Chen took a sip of tea and nodded with satisfaction, it is indeed good tea. I can only drink this kind of tea at your place. Chow Dafu smiled and handed Ning 11 another cup of tea. Dr. Ning, you probably don't like tea. I've already asked someone to prepare a drink for you. Don't bother, I prefer tea to drinks. Ning 11 likes tea, and she likes to taste good tea most. The steaming aroma of tea spread, she sniffed it and squinted her eyes in enjoyment. Wuishan de Hongbao. You guessed it before you tasted it, Chow Dafu looked at Ning 11 with surprise. A 20-year-old girl who grew up in the countryside actually knew tea and was an expert. Dr. Chen also looked at Ning 11 in surprise. How can a keen sense of smell be used in this way? No, this is not the point. The point is that this girl actually understands tea. I have studied books on this subject. Ning 11 smiled and found an excuse, picked up the tea and took a sip. It's a pity that it's not new tea. I can drink both old and new tea. Dr. Ning is amazing. Joe Dafa gave a thumbs up to Ning 11. This girl is really admirable. Ning 11 just smiled and didn't answer. I'll ask someone to prepare 2 packets, and each of you will take 1 packet back when you go back, Chow Dafa said with a smile. Perhaps he was afraid that the 2 of them would refuse, so he changed the subject with a smile. Do we have a doctor here who can cure Ling, master? Dr. Chen shook his head. The Wang family has nothing to do. It's not that easy to find a doctor outside who can cure Master Ling. Joe Dafa nodded in agreement. He poured himself a cup of tea and took a sip. His eyes fell on Ning 11. Dr. Ning, you didn't show it to Master Ling? You're already here, why don't you show it to Master Ling? You can't say for sure it can be cured. Have seen it, the poison on his body is indeed troublesome, but it is not impossible to cure. Dr. Chen looked at Ning 11 with surprise on his face. Xiao 11, can you figure it out? I can't guarantee that it can detoxify 100% of the time, but you can try. Ling Yun's poison is not a big problem for her. The reason why she said that she can't guarantee that it can detoxify is that she wants to be more modest in front of Dr. Chen, so as not to. Dr. Chen can't bear to lose face. How sure are you? Ning 11 thought for a while and gave an answer that made the patient's family members excited and kept Dr. Chen from being too depressed. 50% sure. Dr. Chen is not a stingy person. Besides, he has long known that Ning 11's medical skills are superior to him, so he does not feel embarrassed because he cannot cure Ling Yun, but Ning 11 has hoped to cure Ling Yun. If Nizai who came over really cured Ling Yun, his face would be bright. Dr. Chen has considerable trust in Ning 11. She said that she was 50% sure, that is, she was really 50% sure. She suddenly said reproachfully, then why didn't you tell me before? Ning 11 touched her nose innocently. If I say in front of those old-timers that I can cure Master Ling's poison, those old-timers won't be able to drown me with saliva. Dr. Chen shook his head with a smile. He was so happy that he almost forgot what happened just now. Just because the waiter called Dr. Ning, those old people looked disdainful. If Ning 11 said that he could cure Ling Yun, those old people would the thing could indeed drown Ning 11 with saliva. With such a good opportunity, Dr. Chen still wanted to fight for Ning 11, so he said to the terminal user, Lao Zhou, ask the waiter to go down and talk to Mr. Ling. Don't say too much, just say that there is a young doctor here. They are 50% sure that they can cure Master Ling. If they are willing to let Ning 11 try, if Ning 11 can really cure Master Ling's poison, he will be prosperous. Chow Dafu immediately called the waiter to explain. After the waiter left, Chow Dafu smiled and refilled Ning 11's tea. The Ling family is one of the top 10 families in the imperial capital and is a truly big family. Dr. Ning, if you can really cure Master Ling, not to mention how much you can get, but this favor will probably allow you to travel around the imperial capital and even all over the country. I just want to make a little money. Ning 11 had never been in contact with the Ling family in her previous life, but she also knew what the Ling family was like. This time she proposed that she could cure Ling Yun because it was actually a favor. Of course, this she wouldn't say it openly, and she wouldn't let anyone see her ambition except her family. Haha, Dr. Ning is so honest. Chow Dafa burst out laughing. He laughed for a while and then said with a smile, Dr. Ning, I'm afraid I'll have to trouble you to look after me in the future. Chow Dafa seems to be joking, but he is actually paving the way for himself. Based on the relationship between their father and son and Ning 11, if Ning 11 really cures Ling Yun this time, if he needs it in the future, he should ask Ning 11 for help. Help. Ning 11 followed Joe Dafa's words and said, Mr. Joe takes such good care of me. If my place is needed and I can do it, I will definitely do it without any hesitation. Dr. Chen followed the words of the two and joked, haha. Xiao 11, Uncle Chen may also need your help in the future. Ning 11 looked helpless, Uncle Chen, even you are laughing at me. After a while, the waiter brought Dr. Zhang and Mr. Ling to the terrace. The three of them stood up and said hello with a tacit understanding. As soon as he sat down, Dr. Zhang asked, Old Chen, are you sure you can cure Master Ling? Dr. Chen smiled and waved his hand, I don't have that ability. The person who is sure to cure Master Ling is my niece. It was also at this time that Dr. Zhang looked at Ning 11 seriously. Dr. Zhang is not only the oldest doctor in Zhang City, he is also a well-known doctor in Zhang City, and he is also a master of detoxification. At that time, a big shot was poisoned, and countless Chinese medical masters were helpless. In the end, Dr. Zhang casually prescribed a medicine, which cured the disease. He didn't mean to boast, he just felt that he was older and had learned and seen much more than the little girl in front of him. He couldn't help it. He really had the ability to cure this little girl who didn't have all her hair in front of him. Ling Yun. Is she really capable? Still don't know how high the sky is and how high it is. End of this chapter. 80s, after marrying a disabled man, I am really fragrant. Author, Nostalgic Head. Chapter 135. Chapter 135 Detoxification Acupuncture. Mr. Ling did not expect that the doctor who gave him hope was actually an inconspicuous little girl. He looked at Ning 11 for a long time and then asked out loud, Are you really sure that you can cure my grandson? Facing the suspicious looks of the two old people, Ning 11 accepted their scrutiny calmly. When Elder Ling asked her questions, she was not as humble as she was in front of Elder Chen. Instead, she said confidently, Mr. Ling, you are the best knowing your grandson's condition, no doctor can give you a 100% guarantee that he can cure Master Ling's disease. I can only say that I can give Master Ling a try. I cannot guarantee that he can definitely be cured. But I can promise that even if I can't cure Master Ling, I won't make Master Ling's condition worse than it is now. When Mr. Ling brought Ling Yun out, he actually had the attitude of treating a dead horse as a living horse. As long as there was a glimmer of hope, he wanted to give it a try. After walking for several months and passing through countless provinces and cities, some people came forward and said that they could cure it. Good Ling Yun. But Mr. Ling did not dare to agree to let these people try, because those people could not make him trust his precious grandson to them. Ning 11 moved him. Ning 11 said that she could not guarantee that she could cure Ling Yun, but she could guarantee that Ling Yun's condition would not be aggravated. This proved that Ning 11 was not an ignorant person. This proved that Ning 11 was different from those people. She did not regard his grandson's life as her fate. Little girl, I can let you give it a try, but there are some things I must say first. If you can't cure my grandson, I won't blame you or embarrass you. Even the medical fee you should pay will still be yes, but if his condition worsens due to your mistakes, you may suffer retaliation from the Ling family. Mr. Ling was not trying to scare Ning 11. Ling Yun was his most beloved grandson. If his grandson really died in Ning 11's hands, he would never let the self-righteous Ning 11 go. Then give it a try. I just want to give Master Ling an injection tonight. If you are still satisfied with my treatment, you have to take Master Ling and me back to Yao Township. I will need at least half a month to detoxify Master Ling. I am still a student, and there is still business waiting for me at home, so I cannot stay in Zhang City for too long. Little girl, only the doctor can make things easier for the patient. How can the patient make things easier for you? Dr. Zhang was unhappy. He still didn't believe that Ning 11 had the ability to cure Ling Yun, but Mr. Ling wanted to try it himself, so he couldn't say anything. Mr. Ling waved his hand carelessly. It doesn't matter, as long as you can let me see Hope, I can take my grandson to walk with you, and everything will be based on your time, and I will never embarrass you. Uncle Chen, please lend me your silver needle. It's already getting late, and now that the deal has been settled, Ning 11 wants to give Ling Yun acupuncture first, so that she can rest early after the injection. Together Dr. Chen said half-jokingly, I also want to learn a skill from a teacher. Ning 11 smiled and nodded. The group of people went downstairs together, and even Chao Deifu followed. He didn't know medical skills, but simply wanted to see Ning 11 show off his skills. When she came to the private room and saw Ling Yun on the bed, Ning 11 was a little confused. Mr. Ling, have you brought shorts for young Master Ling? Shorts? Mr. Ling was a little confused when asked. Xiaoun doesn't wear shorts. Dr. Chen and Chao Deifu knew why Ning 11 asked about the shorts. Dr. Chen smiled and explained, Xiao 11's husband is more traditional and cannot accept Xiao 11 treating the opposite sex. When Xiao 11 treats the opposite sex, she will ask the other person to wear knee-length shorts so that her husband won't be upset. Dr. Zhang's face turned even more ugly. How can I ensure the acupuncture points are accurate while wearing shorts? Besides, what if the silver needle is contaminated with bacteria through the cloth during the acupuncture? Dr. Ning dared to apply acupuncture through her shorts because she was confident enough. As for the bacterial infection through the fabric, Dr. Ning also thought about it. My son was treated by Dr. Ning for his leg. When he just went there, Dr. Ning told him the shorts worn during the injection need to be changed every day and disinfected to ensure that the shorts are clean and will not cause infection. Dr. Zhang's attitude made Chao Deifu very unhappy. He knew Dr. Zhang and had asked Dr. Zhang to see Zhou Jin's legs. So it's not like the awesome doctor was incapable of curing his son. This man has no ability himself, so he just keeps his mouth shut and is here dictating what to do to bully Dr. Ning. After Zhou Deifu finished quarreling with Dr. Zhang, he politely said to Mr. Ling, Mr. Ling, my son has a few pairs of shorts here. They are all sterilized. If you don't mind, I will go and get you a pair of shorts, just wear it for a while. Lao Ling nodded and quickly thanked Chow Tai Fook, then thank you, Mr. Zhou. Chow Deifu smiled and waved his hand, and walked out quickly. After a while, he came over with a pair of shorts sealed in a bag. It's related to my son's health. I hired someone to wash these shorts, disinfect them, and then package them for storage. Ling, I don't need to worry about the bacteria in these pants. Thank you. Mr. Ling thanked him again. Ning 11 asked Dr. Chen to help Ling Yun take off his shirt and put on shorts, while she walked out of the room. When Dr. Chen helped Ling Yun change into shorts, Ning 11 walked into the ward. Chow Tai Fook was already helping to sterilize the silver needles. Chow Tai Fook had done this for Ning 11 countless times, and now he does it. Presentable. Picking up the sterilized silver needle, Ning 11 walked to the bed and started to acupuncture Ling Yun. One by one, the silver needles were inserted into Ling Yun's body. After the acupuncture was finished, Ning 11 held the silver needle and turned it gently, following her. Turning around, some black-red blood appeared around the silver needle. She would hold and turn each silver needle until a pool of black-red blood appeared around the silver needle. Then she would let go of the silver needle and continue to turn other silver needles. Ning 11's approach is not understandable not only to Zhou Deifu and Mr. Ling, but also to Dr. Chen and Dr. Zhang. What on earth is Ning 11 doing? Several people looked puzzled, but no one dared to disturb Ning 11. They were all afraid of affecting Ning 11's performance and aggravating Ling Yun's condition. This process lasted for an hour and a half. When Ning 11 stopped, Ling Yun had become a man, with black and red blood all over his body, and the whole room also exuded an unpleasant stench. When Ning 11 withdrew the needle, Dr. Chen asked aloud, "Xiao 11, what kind of acupuncture are you doing?" "My master's own detoxification acupuncture method," Ning 11 explained with a smile. The Shen family's own detoxification acupuncture method is not just a matter of pinching a silver needle. Naturally, Ning 11 would not say the specific details. Is the black blood on Master Ling's body sent out to be poisonous blood? Dr. Zhang's eyes changed when he looked at Ning 11. Just the acupuncture technique used by Ning 11 just now made Dr. Zhang believe that the little girl in front of him he has real ability. Yes, Ning 11 responded aloud and then said to Mr. Ling, "Mr. Ling, you can wipe the blood on Master Ling's body with a dry towel. Don't get it wet. It will take at least 3-5 hours before it gets wet water." Okay, Mr. Ling nodded in agreement, and then asked hurriedly, "Dr. Ning, how long will it take for Xiaoun to wake up?" Ling Yun has only been awake 3 times in the past 3 months. He hopes that his grandson will wake up and talk to him. "I'll wake up tomorrow morning." Really, Mr. Ling was excited, and his eyes became wet unconsciously. "Maybe I'll wake up in the middle of the night today." Ning 11 smiled and explained some things before leaving Ling Yun's room with Dr. Chen and the others. As soon as she came out, Ning 11 breathed heavily. The smell of the poisonous blood was so stinky that she almost fainted from the stench. Several other people were already stifled by the stench, and now they were breathing in fresh air. Dr. Zhang was also breathing heavily, but his eyes were always on Ning 11. He had a feeling that Ning 11 could really cure Ling Yun and that she was really capable. "Xiaoning, I wonder where you studied." At this time, Dr. Zhang and Ning 11 spoke much more politely. "My master doesn't like me mentioning his name." End of this chapter. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. 80s, after marrying a disabled man, I am really fragrant. Author, Nostalgic Head. Chapter 136. Chapter 136, Want to open a food factory. Early the next morning, Ning 11 took a rare nap and came downstairs at almost 9 o'clock. The waiter from last night came over immediately. "Dr. Ning is awake. Do you want to go to the restaurant first? Dr. Chen has already had breakfast." Okay, Ning 11 nodded and followed the waiter to the restaurant for breakfast. After she finished her breakfast, Dr. Chen and Dr. Zhang stood in the hall talking. Seeing Ning 11, Dr. Chen said hello with a smile, "Get up." "Good morning, Uncle Chen." Ning 11 said good morning to Dr. Chen, and then smiled at Dr. Zhang, "Mr. Zhang." Mr. Ling went out to buy shorts for young Master Ling. "He should be here soon," Dr. Zhang said, and then added, "Master Ling is awake and not in good spirits. He is resting upstairs right now. The poison in his body has not been eliminated yet, so it is normal to be depressed," Ning 11 said, walked to the sofa and sat down. After waiting for about 10 minutes, Mr. Ling came back in a Deben commercial vehicle. Lao Ling explained, and the driver immediately walked upstairs. Chow Tai-Fuk also came at this time. He handed 2 bags to Dr. Chen. "I brought some food to Xiao Jin. His mother bought him a few sets of clothes. The other bag contained tea and matsu take. I brought him some food. You and Lao he try it together." Okay, Mr. Chen nodded with a smile. Chow Daifu handed another bag to Ning 11, "Dr. Ning, I packed some tea, matsu take, snacks, and a few cans of cream for you. I heard that cream is good for pregnant women." "Thank you." Ning 11 took the bag. Chow Tai-Fuk would bring some food to Ning 11 from time to time. At first, Ning 11 would refuse. After refusing several times, Chow Tai-fuk would still bring him. She got used to it and would do it every time. Accepted with peace of mind. Chow Tai-fuk smiled and waved his hands. You're welcome, they're just little things. After a while, the driver came downstairs carrying Ling Yun on his back. Mr. Ling walked over and helped Ling Yun sit down on the sofa. He was not in good spirits, his face was still pale, and his lips were still purple. Lao Ling stood aside and introduced, Xiaoun, this is Dr. Ning Xining, and that is Ning 11's uncle, Dr. Chen. Ling Yun's eyes fell on Ning 11, and he looked up and down for a long time before saying weakly, Dr. Ning, thank you. Ning 11 smiled faintly, it won't be too late to say thank you after Master Ling recovers. The people exchanged pleasantries and got into the car and drove toward Yao Township. 2 hours later, the car stopped outside Baohe Hall. When Ning 11 and the others got out of the car, a man and a woman stepped forward and respectfully called Mr. Ling, Master. Lao Ling nodded and asked aloud, have you found a house? The woman in her 40s respectfully replied, I've found it, it's right in front. Just this morning, I even found a house. As expected, having money is good. Lao Ling looked at Ning 11 again and asked, Dr. Ning, when will Xiaoun start treatment? Ning 11 glanced at the time. It was already 11 o'clock at noon. It's already noon now. Let's take a half-hour break after lunch. Master Ling will try to prepare something light and not too greasy. Okay, Mr. Ling responded. After Mr. Ling and the others left, Ning 11 also walked back home. Ning Xiaohe is preparing lunch in the kitchen. Ning 11 walked into the kitchen and asked with a smile, Mom, what's for lunch? I'm back. How about eating bitter melon and green pepper for lunch today, and making some lufa soup? Ning Xiaohe was cutting bitter melon, and was very happy to see Ning 11 back. I bought a black bone chicken and stewed it for you in the afternoon. Okay. Mr. Zhou just sent some matsutake mushrooms. I'll mix some medicinal materials and stew them together in a while. Ning 11 washed her hands and helped pour the green peppers into the basin to wash. Just go inside and rest for a while, and I'll cook. I'm not tired because I'm in a car and I'm not driving. Mom, let me fry the bitter melon. The bitter melon I fry has almost no bitter taste. Okay. Ning Xiaohe nodded in agreement, and then asked with a smile, will you gain anything from going out with your Uncle Chen this time? Ning Xiaohe knew that Dr. Chen brought Ning 11 there to see the world. What she meant was whether Ning 11 had gotten to know the doctors this time and whether she had learned anything from them. I have gained a patient. If I cure him, I can get 300,000 medical fees and a house in the imperial capital. How much? Ning Xiaohe picked her ears. There must be something wrong with her ears. She heard wrongly. 300,000, a house in the imperial capital. How is this possible? Ning 11 said with a stern expression, 300,000 plus a house in the imperial capital. Ning Xiaohe looked at Ning 11 blankly, she still didn't believe what she heard. The other party comes from a big family in the imperial capital. Mom, you should know that the lives of young masters from these big families are very valuable. From ancient times to the present, the lives of those big families are very precious. Ning Xiaohe can still understand this. The imperial capital is a big city. There are no doctors there who can cure him. He must be seriously ill. Xiao 11, you really have it. Be sure to heal others, but don't suffer retaliation from them if you fail to heal them. Mom, don't worry, if I wasn't sure I wouldn't agree to treat him. As long as you are sure. Ning Xiaohe smiled and touched Ning 11's head. Don't put too much pressure on yourself. It doesn't matter if it can't be cured. Mom will take you out of here and hide for a while. During lunch, Lu Zhengai and the others also asked about Ning 11's gains from going to the city this time. When they learned that Ning 11 could get 300,000 yuan and a house as long as she cured the patient, everyone looked unhappy. I dare to believe that what I heard with my ears was true only after confirming it with Ning 11 again and again. Lu Zhengai said with a serious face, if everyone knows about this, it's better not to tell it. If people know about this amount of money, I don't know how many people will be concerned about it. Everyone nodded. This matter really cannot be told to the outside world. They each have tens of thousands of dollars each and they don't dare to let anyone know for fear of being remembered. Ning 11 can't let anyone know that he made 300,000 yuan all at once. No. Ning 11 smiled and revealed her plan. With this money in hand, we can open a food factory. Opening a food factory? That will cost a lot of money. He raised his head and looked at Ning 11. Opening a small workshop and a food factory are different. So, second brother, you will also have to take out the money when the time comes, and so will Ai Ling. Here, we kept all that money, it's of no use. Before He could say anything, Zhang Ying had already spoken. She didn't know anything else, but she knew that she could make a lot of money as long as she followed Ning 11. He also nodded, okay, anyway, as long as you follow Xiao 11, you won't run out of money. There are profits and losses in doing business, so you can't put too much hope in Xiao 11. Ning Xiao he didn't expect them to lose money in business, but seeing that Zhang Ying and He trusted Ning 11 so much, she was a little worried. If the food factory, if they can't make money, will these two people blame Ning 11? Will they hold a grudge against Ning 11? He knew what Ning Xiao he meant and said with a smile, Aunt Ning, I know. If we really lose money, we won't blame Xiao 11. The worst we can do is start over from scratch. With Xiao 11 here, we can make the money back sooner or later. End of this chapter. 80s, after marrying a disabled man, I am really fragrant. Author, Nostalgic Head. Chapter 137. Chapter 137 Lu Zhengai awakens. After lunch, Ning 11 took Zhang Ying and Su Ailing to the kitchen. She was going to make two new snacks, hillbilly braised eggs and spicy beef cubes. In her previous life, when Jinner was a child, she would drool every time she saw others eating hillbilly braised eggs. Once, she secretly picked up someone else's discarded package and licked the remaining juice inside. That time it stung her deeply and she gave it to her. Jinner bought a hillbilly braised egg and took a bite by herself. She studied the ingredients list and tried several times before making a delicious hillbilly braised egg. The market price of eggs is 1 yuan per catty, and the wholesale price is 8 cents per catty. There are about 8 eggs per catty. The price of an egg is about 1 cent plus the required seasonings. The cost of a country bumpkin egg is about 1 cent, about 3 cents, their wholesale price can be put at 18 cents, and you can earn 5 cents for an egg. Ning 11 taught Zhang Ying how to make it and calculated the accounts for her, which made Zhang Ying's eyes light up. Su Ailing's eyes were also shining, and she analyzed with excitement, it's impossible to use a pot of marinade just once, so the cost should be less than 1 cent and 3 cents. Ning 11 smiled and nodded, yes, 1 pot of marinade can marinate 3 pots of eggs. Zhang Ying's eyes brightened even more, so an egg doesn't just earn 5 points. Ning 11 smiled slightly and brought the topic back to preparing to open a food factory. Before Su Ailing became a shareholder, Zhou Tong told her that Ning 11 would definitely open a food factory in the future. They should save the money they received every month and use it in the future. Buying shares in a food factory, so when Ning 11 mentioned this matter, Su Ailing agreed without any hesitation. After the braised eggs were ready, Ning 11 taught the two of them how to make spicy beef cubes. Ning 11 had made spicy beef cubes at home several times before. Zhang Ying had already learned about it, and Ning 11 explained some details to her. So he stood aside and let Zhang Ying teach Su Ailing while making it. Zhang Ying had just put the chopped beef into the pot when Ling Yun arrived. Ning 11 told Zhang Ying a few words and went to the consultation room. The detoxification acupuncture method was more time-consuming and laborious than usual acupuncture, and Ning 11 had almost no chance to rest during the entire process. Ling Yun also felt uncomfortable, and his face became uglier with Ning 11's movements every second, but this person was still very careful in this situation. "Uncle Wei, bring a stool to Dr. Ning." The driver's brother, Old Wei, who came with Ling Yun, immediately brought a stool and placed it behind Ning 11. "Dr. Ning, please sit down." "Thank you." Ning 11 was indeed a little tired from standing, so she sat down and continued to turn the silver needle. Ling Yun's eyes fell on Ning 11. "Dr. Ning, are you in junior high school or high school?" "Junior high school or high school? She looks only 14 or 15. Ning 11 glanced at Ling Yun expressionlessly. "Does Master Ling look at me like I'm underage?" "Quite similar. Like your sister." Ning 11 was so honest that she simply stopped talking. She wanted to confront Ling Yun but didn't dare. He was her god of wealth and could not be offended. Lao Wei hurriedly explained, "Dr. Ning, don't get me wrong. The old master asked the young master to ask you what time it would be more appropriate for the young master to come over for acupuncture." Ling Yun glanced at Old Wei, obviously unhappy that Old Wei had spoken out to help explain, but he did not deny what Old Wei said. Ning 11 thought for a while and said, "Monday to Friday around 7:20 p.m., Saturday and Sunday around 1:30 p.m. They currently have a total of 2 evening self-study periods that end at 8:20 every day. Because it takes Ling Yun an hour and a half to do acupuncture. In order not to waste her rest time, she plans to ask teacher Shen to apply for only 1 evening self-study period. Anyway, the second period is late. Self-study is basically used for homework. Even after lectures, Liu Bei can help her make up for it." Ling Yun nodded and said nothing more. Ning 11 stood up and changed positions to continue turning the silver needle. Old Wei quickly stepped forward and helped Ning 11 move the stool behind Ning 11. When each silver needle finished turning, Ling Yun turned into a man again, and an unpleasant stench emitted from the room. After taking out the needle, Ning 11 appeared and said a few words to leave the consultation room. "Yang Yufeng is here again." Lu Zhengai stood at the door with a sullen face and looked at Yang Yufeng, leaving Yang Yufeng sitting outside the door crying and fussing. Ning 11 frowned. It seemed that the last time she reported the crime didn't scare Yang Yufeng, so she would report it again. She wanted to see if Yang Yufeng would still be scared if she reported the crime a few more times. Ning 11 walked towards the main room and was about to go in to make a call when she saw Lu Zhengai turning around and walking back. "Is this no matter what?" Ning 11 stopped where she was and looked at Lu Zhengai with confusion as he walked into the production room. After a while, Lu Zhengai led Li Dequi and several male workers out of the production room. As soon as they came out, they grabbed the bamboo poles placed by the wall and hurried towards them. "Walk towards the door." Ling Yun came out of the clinic in a wheelchair at this time. He was still very weak. In order to make it easier to get in and out, Mr. Ling bought him a wheelchair when he was in the city. "What do you want to do?" Yang Yufeng glared at a few people, and when she saw them approaching, she began to cry and howl. "Come here. I'm beating you. My man wants to beat me to death for a wild woman. Come here. Come on. Hit me." Before Yang Yufeng could finish shouting, Lu Zhengai had already shouted angrily. Li Dequi immediately rushed up with the workers and beat Yang Yufeng with the tools in his hands. No one showed any mercy, and the attack was so hateful. "Ah! Stop it, stop it, ah! Lu Zhengai, you dare to let others hit me, ah! I want to follow you." Yang Yufeng screamed repeatedly after being beaten, and she got up from the ground and started running around. Lu Zhengai stood at the door with his hands behind his back and watched coldly. When the beating was almost over, Lu Zhengai asked Li Dequi and the others to stop. "Yang Yufeng, I only want to say this for the last time. You and I have divorced, and we have no relationship anymore. If you dare to make trouble again, I'll have someone beat you up again." Said Lu Zhengai took out $1 from his pocket and threw it in front of Yang Yufeng. This money is for your medical expenses. Take the money and get out immediately. Lu Zhengai left these words and asked 2 workers to guard the door, waiting for Yang Yufeng to leave before going back. He turned around and walked into the house. He was so angry before that he didn't see Ning 11 after 2 trips back and forth. Now that he saw Ning 11 and Ning 11's patients, Lu Zhengai's face inevitably looked a little embarrassed. He coughed awkwardly, cough. Xiao 11. The things that Yang Yufeng did at home had a big impact on Lu Zhengai. He suddenly figured it out and no longer wanted to worry about benevolence, justice, and morality, let alone whether Yang Yufeng was the biological mother of the 2 children. Didn't Yang Yufeng like to play tricks and be a shrew? He couldn't lose his dignity by playing lie, so he could only compete with her in ruthlessness. He wanted to see whether he was ruthless, or Yang Yufeng or the Yang family members. It's good if Dad can figure it out. Ning 11 smiled slightly. End of this chapter. 80s, after marrying a disabled man, I am really fragrant. Author, Nostalgic Head. Chapter 138. Chapter 138 Severing Ties. After the farce ended, Ning 11 walked back to the main room, wrote a prescription and gave it to Old Wei. This is the prescription. You can get the medicine at the Baohe Hall next door. Of course, if you don't mind the trouble, you can go to other places to get the medicine. Ling Yun glanced at Old Wei, who took out 200 yuan from his pocket and handed it to Ning 11. Dr. Ning, our old man said that he will give you the usual acupuncture fee every time he is done. As for the old man's promise, he will wait until the poison in the young master's body once solved, it will be cashed in immediately. After taking the consultation fee, Ning 11 sent the master and servant out. Yang Yufeng was still lying on the ground. The beating must have really hurt her, and she might not be able to get up for a while. It was you asked these people to beat me, right? Yang Yufeng raised her head and waited for Ning 11 fiercely. Ning 11, if you dare to let people beat me, I will ask Lu Nan to divorce you. Ning 11 looked down at Yang Yufeng on the ground. A contemptuous and mocking smile appeared on her beautiful face. Go. He has returned to the army. Don't you have the army's phone number? The training ground of the 718th Troop in the Imperial City. A group of soldiers sweating profusely were practicing in the training ground. While Lu Nan was guarding the training of these soldiers, he was also doing rehabilitation on the parallel bars under the supervision of the military doctor. His legs can already move. The military doctor said that with proper rehabilitation, he can let him recover faster. He didn't tell Ning 11 that he could move his legs. He wanted to give her a surprise when he recovered. A soldier trotted into the training ground. Platoon Commander Lu, someone is calling you. Lu Nan held up the parallel bars and looked back at the soldier. Who's looking for me? I don't know, the other party just said they were looking for you. Lu Nan didn't ask any more questions and sat down in the wheelchair with the help of the military doctor. The soldier took the initiative to push Lu Nan out of the training ground and went to the guard room. I asked her to call in a few minutes, and she should be calling by now. Lu Nan frowned. After he returned to the army, everyone familiar with him knew the phone number of his office. Who would call him? Is the other party a man or a woman? Does his voice sound old or young? The soldier thought about it for a while before saying, the woman's voice sounded quite rough. She should be a middle-aged woman. Lu Nan's temples were beating suddenly, and a bad premonition immediately arose in his heart. I'm leaving first. If she calls, just tell her that I'm not in the army and ask her to leave her name. When I come back. Before Lu Nan could say anything, the phone was already ringing. The soldier looked at Lu Nan with a confused look on his face. Platoon Commander Lu, should you take it or should I take it? Lu Nan glanced at the soldier in annoyance and said, bring me the phone. The soldier quickly took off the phone from the wall and handed it to Lu Nan. Hello. Xiao Nan, Yang Yufeng's voice came from the phone. Before Lu Nan could react, Yang Yufeng's voice on the other side of the phone was crying, "Son, you." Yang Yufeng's crying almost sent Lu Nan away on the spot. He was about to hang up the phone when Yang's father's voice came over again, "Lu Nan, your wife is so lawless. She had your mother beaten. I didn't see that not a single piece of skin on your mother's body was healthy, so I had to ask your uncle to carry it out when she came out to make a phone call." Then came Yang Yufeng's voice again, "Zionan. That girl found another concubine and she was still paralyzed. When I went there today, I saw her and that man having with my own eyes. I just went up and said a few words to her. She just let someone beat me up. Are you done?" Lu Nan's tone was already terrifyingly gloomy, but Yang Yufeng and Yang's father on the other side of the phone didn't hear anything wrong with Lu Nan's voice. Yang's father said without thinking, "Xiao Nan, there are still such watery women. What did she do? Come back and divorce her. Whether I get divorced or not has nothing to do with you." Lu Nan was so angry that his eyes were splitting. He didn't want to pay attention to the two people on the other side of the phone, but his comrades were listening beside him. If he hung up at this time, after calling him, his wife's reputation would have spread throughout the army within the afternoon. Father Yang roared angrily, "Lu Nan, don't be ungrateful. We are all doing this for your own good. Haven't you done enough under the pretext of doing good for me? Before I went back, you arranged a marriage for me under the pretext of doing good for me. You helped me marry someone. What happened to you, to her? On the morning after the wedding, while I was no longer in the house, I grabbed her hair and dragged her out of the room. I set rules for her and left her to do all the work at home. I beat her and tortured her again and again. She even poured ice-cold water over her head in the cold winter. We moved out from home. You couldn't bully her, and there was no one to help you with the work at home. You just wanted to find a wife for me, so you teamed up with outsiders to drug me, which made me almost do something sorry for her. Now you come and frame her for having an affair with another man, frame her for beating you. Mom? Are you still a human being? Do you still have humanity? That is my wife, your daughter-in-law. How could you treat her like this?" If these words were said in the past, Lu Nan would definitely not say them in front of outsiders. With a mother like this, how could he possibly let people know about such a shameful thing? But it doesn't matter if he is embarrassed, as long as his wife's reputation can be preserved, she dares to do anything. "I didn't." Yang Yufeng wanted to deny it. As soon as she opened her mouth, Lu Nan responded with a louder voice. "Mom, is this the last time I call you Mom? My dad is right, you are a selfish person who only cares about yourself. Don't call me again. Even if you call me, I won't answer." Father Yang yelled angrily on the phone, "Lu Nan, you white-eyed wolf, are you going to deny your mother because of a woman? My daughter-in-law has a saying that says that if you don't nourish your child, you can repay it if you cut off your finger. Although I didn't say I would give you back a broken finger, I have done enough. So the debt I owe you for giving birth has been repaid now. From now on, I have nothing to do with you or the Yang family, and nothing about anyone or anything in your family has anything to do with me." After saying that, Lu Nan didn't listen to the various roars coming from the phone. He stood up in his wheelchair and hung up the phone with a snap. He glanced at the two soldiers on duty at the door and said, "Tell the soldiers on duty that anyone who calls me on this phone in the future does not need to notify me again." The two soldiers were stunned on the spot, unable to regain their senses for a long time. Just at this time, a group of soldiers came back from training outside. When they arrived at the door, a group of them stopped and started breathing heavily. The soldiers who went out for training happened to be in the same company as the soldiers on duty. The soldiers on duty also whispered before the squad leader came back, "I want to tell you something." A group of people were resting and looking at the soldiers on duty. What's going on? Things about Platoon Chief Lu's family. Two soldiers on duty vividly told the story of Lunan's phone call, and the group of people listened with sighs on their faces. Born but not raised means that platoon leader Lu was not raised by his mother. He bullied his daughter-in-law, drugged his son, spread rumors about his daughter-in-law, and forced his son and daughter-in-law to divorce. What the was he doing? Just beasts. Lunan didn't even know that he hadn't returned to the training ground yet, and the news about his family had already spread among the team. End of this chapter. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. 80s, after marrying a disabled man, I am really fragrant. Author, Nostalgic Head. Chapter 139. Chapter 139 Lunan's Cruelty. Lunan Suwei and Chen Pupu rushed to the army. When they saw Lunan from a distance, they immediately asked the driver to drive behind Lunan. Good leader Lunan turned around in his wheelchair and respectfully gave a military salute to Suweiguo. Suweiguo waved his hand and walked over, pushing the wheelchair toward the office. Come on, I need to see you if I need something. Walking into Lunan's office, Suweiguo closed the door and scolded with a stern face, why didn't you tell me about 11ER and her mother being kidnapped? Lunan looked at Suweiguo with a confused face. His little daughter-in-law was fine at home. When was she kidnapped? You don't know either. Suweiguo saw Lunan's expression and knew that Lunan didn't know about it either, so he told the matter again. He originally called Lazy Eye today to ask if Ning Xiaohe had been found. When Lazy Eye was chatting with him, he accidentally revealed that Ning 11 and Ning Xiaohe were kidnapped. Knowing that he said something wrong, Lazy Eye immediately made an excuse. Hang up the phone when you have work to do. After hearing what Suweiguo said, Lunan looked a little embarrassed. I knew what my mother-in-law found a long time ago. You went to participate in military exercises before and couldn't contact you, so I didn't have time to tell you about it. Their mother and daughter were kidnapped. I really don't know. After explaining, Lunan came to the desk and picked up the landline on the table and dialed the landline in Lazy Eye's office. Press the speakerphone. Suweiguo walked over, pressed the speakerphone, and hung up the receiver. The phone rang for a long time, and just when the phone was about to hang up automatically, the other party picked up the phone. Liza knew that the call must have been made by Lunan. Lunan came to raise an army to question the culprit. He picked up the phone with a grimace and took the initiative to confess, Boss, I didn't hide it from you on purpose. My sister-in-law didn't let us tell you. You had just returned to the army at that time. She was afraid that you would be anxious and that you would rush back in a hurry. Tell things. Lunan's tone was cold and hard. Lazy Eye did not dare to hide anything and told the whole story exactly. After hearing what Lazy Eye said, Lunan was silent for a while and asked, how did Yang Kuahua deal with it? The process is already going through, it should be 10 years. Lunan's eyes flashed with a fierce look, very good. Boss. Lazy Eye was a little confused. The boss was obviously very angry, so how could he still say that this was good? Suweiguo was a little unhappy with the result. Isn't this too light? Lazy Eye wiped his cold sweat, and Suweiguo was also there. He had not dared to tell Suweiguo the truth despite Suweiguo's questioning before, but now he told Lunan everything. Will Suweiguo make a mark in his heart for this? He is now far away in Zhang City and is not afraid of being missed by Suweiguo, but the boss said that he will find a way to solve their problems. If he and Zhou Tong are transferred back to the army, then he will still be under the control of Suweiguo. When Suweiguo takes revenge on him, he will not think about having a good time. Lazy Eye was already a dramatist and frantically added drama to himself, but Suweiguo didn't take his matter to heart at all. At this moment, all Sueagyo could think about was that his wife and his baby daughter had been bullied, but his cheap son-in-law didn't take it to heart at all, and even thought that 10 years was enough. Hunt, stinky boy, if he had recognized his daughter earlier, he would definitely not marry his daughter to this bastard. It was simply too irritating. After completing the procedures, you will be well taken care of by someone after entering J prison. Remember to say hello and don't kill the person, Lunan snorted coldly. It was an advantage for him to let Yankuahua die so easily. This Yankuahua dared to touch his wife, how could he let him go so easily? Understood. Lazy Eye shrank his neck subconsciously. He almost forgot that his boss, Xiang Lao, was not easy to talk to, and he had countless ways to deal with his enemies. Lunan added, say what you should say to your sister-in-law, but don't mention a word of what shouldn't be said. Okay, Lazy Eye agreed immediately, thought for a moment and then asked, Chief, boss, Ninghong, mother and son, what should we do with them? The three of them now insist that this matter has nothing to do with them, and we really can't find any evidence. If you can't find any evidence, why don't you think of other ways to send people in? Sueagyo roared angrily. Damn it, the woman and baby daughter dared to bully him and tried to deceive him. How could he be picked out so easily? Don't interfere in Ninghong's affairs. If she can survive, let her live well. A contemptuous sneer appeared on Lunan's lips. Don't she want to occupy my wife's identity and become a master? Then let her live a good life and see with her own eyes how my wife obtained the status she dreamed of. This is to kill people and kill people. Sueagyo glanced at Lunan. He really wanted to pry open Lunan's mind and take a closer look to see how many dirty ideas this kid had in his mind. But he had to say that this kid's dirty ideas were deeply rooted in his heart. Thinking of Lunan's arrangement, Sueagyo couldn't help but reflect. Only after this reflection did he realize a serious problem. After learning about his wife and daughter's life over the years, he just wanted to marry Ning Xiaohe as soon as possible. Hurry up and give Ning 11 the identity she deserves, and give Ning 11 a complete family, but they ignore how much grievances their mother and daughter have suffered over the years. No, we cannot just forget about these things. After thinking clearly, when Lazy Eye was about to hang up, Sueagyo shouted into the phone, Lazy Eye, please keep an eye on the Ning family, mother and son, and don't let anyone die. I will be of great use in the future. Leader, Lu Shufang and Ning Yang, I can watch. Ninghong is already dying. If she can't survive, there is nothing I can do. Lazy Eye is telling the truth. They can't do it just because they want Ninghong to look good. Go find Ninghong a kidney and save her life. Anyway, we can't let his family die. By the way, Ning Dalong is still inside, right? Let him help Yankuahua explore the way first. Liza twitched his mouth, and another ruthless person came. After hanging up the phone, Lazy Eye immediately called J prison to exchange greetings. Ning Dalong was moved to room J that night, and he walked into room J carrying his belongings. Ning Dalong has learned the lesson after suffering a lot in the past few months. As soon as he entered, he stood obediently on the ground and nodded and bowed to the people standing on the horse. Brothers, where do I live? A dark-skinned man living in the lower bunk looked at Ning Dalong with disgust, but still glanced at an empty bed next to him with his peripheral vision and said, put the things on the bed. Okay. Ning Dalong obediently put the things on the bed, secretly glad that the people in this J room were much easier to get along with than the people in the previous J room. When he first came in, he didn't understand anything and it was like sleeping on a bed. Who knew that those people just threw his things into the toilet and told him to go and sleep in the toilet? He didn't want to resist but was beaten severely. Just when he was lost in memories, the man who spoke before said again, here are 3 people to take him to the toilet to wash up. Ning Dalong had no time to react and was dragged into the toilet. Not long after, Ning Dalong's screams and begging for mercy were heard from the toilet. End of this chapter. 80s, after marrying a disabled man, I am really fragrant. Author, Nostalgic Head. Chapter 140. Chapter 140. Lu Zhengai shows off his power. Yang Yufeng and Yang's father failed to get a good deal from Lu Nan, and Lu Nan wanted to sever the mother-son relationship with Yang Yufeng. The Yang family blamed Ning 11 for all their faults. The next day, the whole family angrily killed Ning 11. 11 family. They arrived early. Ning 11 and Liu Bei were still having breakfast at home. Several workers came bustlingly. It was not yet time to work. The workers were sitting or standing in the yard chatting. There were people coming so early in the morning, and they were only workers, so no one paid attention to them. The Yang family rushed directly into the yard and walked towards the main room. When they arrived at the main room, Boss Yang, who was at the front, rushed into the door and roared, "You little bitch, if you dare to hit me, I will kill you today." Almost everyone's eyes were attracted. Liu Bei immediately stood up and stood in front of Ning 11. Lu Zhengai also put down his bowl and chopsticks and stood up with a stern face. "What do you want to do?" "What are you doing?" Yang Lao roared angrily and stepped forward towards Ning 11. "You little bitch, you dare to let someone hurt my sister? What do you think we are going to do?" Ning 11 looked innocent. Is she the one taking the blame? Even though he did nothing, he still takes the blame. Lu Zhengai took a step forward and stood in front of Liu Bei and Ning 11. "I ask someone to beat Yang Yufeng. If you want to make trouble, come at me." Boss Yang stretched out his hand to push Lu Zhengai away. "Lu Zhengai, you think we will let you go? Get out of my way. I'll take care of you after I take care of Ning 11. This time Lu Zhengai did not let others bully him like before. Before Boss Yang's hand touched him, he reached out to pat Boss Yang's hand, but he was pushed away by Boss Yang because he was too weak. Boss Yang glared at Liu Bei fiercely, "You little bastard, get out of here." Liu Bei clenched his fists and glared at Boss Yang fiercely, "How dare you touch my sister-in-law?" The workers outside the door also reacted. The workers who participated in beating Yang Yufeng yesterday knew that these people came to take revenge for what happened yesterday, and immediately called on the others to rush into the main room. Yang's father stood at the door of the hall and stopped the workers. "What are you doing? This is our family's household chores. Workers, you look at me, I look at you, but you don't dare to rush in. After all, everyone said it is a family matter of the boss's family." At this time, Lu Zhengai said angrily, "What housework matters? The Lu family and the Yang family have nothing to do with each other for a long time. Kick these people out." Father Yang looked at Lu Zhengai in disbelief, his eyes blazing with fire, and he gritted his teeth and threatened, "How dare you, Lu Zhengai? Yang Fuhei, I didn't make trouble with you before because I treated you as family. Now we have no relationship, and I don't need to coddle you." Lu Zhengai looked at the workers, "Kick them out immediately. If they don't leave and if they dare to make trouble, they will be beaten by me. I will be responsible for the trouble." Some workers yelled, "If you don't hear this, get out immediately, otherwise don't blame us for being polite to you." "Let's see who dares," Yang Liao shouted, and with a wave of his hand, all the food on the table was swept to the ground, and then he kicked the table at his feet. This family really loves to smash things. Ning 11 has only seen it once, but Lu Zhengai has seen it countless times. He knew that if he didn't stop them, everything in the hall would soon be smashed by them. Thinking of this, Lu Zhengai shouted again, "Do it!" Those workers did not hesitate to rush up with various tools and beat the Yang family. Within a moment, the whole family was beaten to the point of running away, screaming and screaming. The workers continued to chase and beat them, and they did not stop until they were driven out of the yard. Lu Zhengai walked out of the crowd and looked at everyone outside the door with a straight face. "Yang Yufeng, I made it very clear to you yesterday. You and I are divorced and we have no relationship anymore. If you dare to come here again, if you make trouble, I'll have someone beat you up once. Lu Zhengai, how dare you let someone beat me? Father Yang covered his swollen face and glared at Lu Zhengai angrily. You dare to come to my house to make trouble, why don't I dare to let people beat you? Lu Zhengai snorted coldly and glanced sharply at the already embarrassed Yang family. Don't you think you haven't been beaten enough if you don't get out? Father Yang glanced at the workers and then at Lu Zhengai. Lu Zhengai had become different. He was no longer the wimp who let them beat and scold him. He even believed that if they came here again, Lu Zhengai would let them go. People beat them out. Want to understand this? Father Yang did not dare to stay any longer. He said hello, covered his face and left. The rest of the Yang family also supported each other and left quickly. Thank you all for today. Ning 11 walked out with a pile of money and handed it to Li Dequi, who had just arrived and hadn't figured out what was going on. Li Dequi, please share this money with everyone. This is our family's thanks to everyone present. After saying that, Ning 11 immediately added, the workers who started yesterday also participated. Have money to take. Everyone's face was full of smiles, and they thanked Ning 11 gratefully. Those who came late and failed to participate in this matter all looked regretful. Well, if I had known earlier I would have come earlier. After the farce ended, Zhou Jing came over and asked the two of them to go to school together. The three of them walked out of the alley and saw Ning 11 selling steamed buns outside. She ran to buy 5 large meat buns. She only had a few bites of breakfast and she was still hungry. Hand one of the meat buns in his hand to Liu Bei, and another to Zhou Jin. I've had breakfast. Zhou Jin waved his hand and refused. You didn't have breakfast today. Just a few bites. Liu Bei bit into the meat buns while recounting what happened in the morning. Zhou Jin exhaled and sighed. Uncle Liu finally showed off his power. I'm just saying this. What's the matter with a grown man always letting a woman take control? Zhou Jin said this quite implicitly. In fact, he often wondered whether Lu Zhengai was a man. He obviously looked like a normal person, but every time he met Yang Yufeng, he turned into a soft-footed shrimp and never dared to. He was tough with others, and even when he moved out from home, he moved out secretly. At that time, he was angry after seeing what Lu Zhengai did, and he also labeled Lu Zhengai as a weakling, a coward in his heart. If it weren't for Ning 11 and Liu Bei, he wouldn't even want to call him Lu. Zhengai is an uncle. My father is worried about me. Liu Bei understood that his father could hide when he could, and he was unwilling to conflict with the Yang family at any time. This was because of the 2 children in the family. His brother was older, and his father believed that his brother could understand, but he was afraid that he would not understand. He would break up with him because of his troubles with the Yang family. Xiao Bei, do you want more? While the two were talking, Ning 11 had only 1 meat bun left in her hand. Liu Bei glanced at the remaining bun in Ning 11's hand and said quickly, Sister-in-law, that's enough. Oh, Ning 11 responded, lowered her head and took a bite of the meat bun. Ning 11, you are so good at eating. Zhou Jin was shocked. A meat bun was bigger than a fist. He could only eat 2 at most as a man. Ning 11 actually ate 3 in one go, and even more. You can have another one. I remember you didn't have such a good appetite before. End of this chapter.